The Boston Red Sox have taken another victory from the Oakland A's. It's a 10-1 victory this time. Big win for the Red Sox. There's some stat padding at the end, but you're not going to complain about that. It's a 10-1 victory anyways. Big outing for Josh Winckowski in his second MLB start. A big game for the offense, and Jarren Duran getting called back up and getting to play and hit leadoff tonight. Big stuff to talk about tonight. We'll cover all that stuff and more right here on Red Sox Recaps. You're watching it, obviously, Red Sox Recap on Bleacher Brawls. My name is Derek, and let's get into it. So, first thing I want to talk about is the obvious big story here. I don't know if he wouldn't be the big story, but even though other guys played well tonight. He seems like the obvious choice. Josh Winckowski. Obviously, we'll go back to the Benintendi trade. When the Red Sox traded away Andrew Benintendi, Red Sox fans were obviously upset. They love Benintendi. But when you start looking into the trade, you start looking at it, and you know what? It's not that bad of an idea. And that Red Sox team didn't necessarily have that much room for Benintendi on the roster. So, and the trade kind of made sense. And you look, obviously, Benintendi's playing well this year, but you can't really take that into why they made the trade. They didn't really have a roster spot for him last year, unless they just threw him on the bench. And you look at who they got back. Got back Franchy Cordero, who obviously he didn't pan out last year. He's been better this year, although he's cold right now. But you get a guy like Winckowski. Obviously, Winckowski came from the Mets, not the Royals. They got him part two and part of flipping Khalil Lee, I think it was, to the Mets. So in that 3-team trade to get Winckowski from the Mets. And Winckowski I think Winckowski was the big piece of this trade for the Red Sox. Obviously, they got 3 other prospects, which still in the system, I'm pretty sure. I know 2 of them are still in the system. But the big name in this trade is Josh Winckowski. The Red Sox believe in him. They put their faith into him. And obviously, it was a rough first start. But I said on that game recap, he really had one bad inning. And he did the one thing that he does well is throw strikes, and he didn't do it at that start. Tonight, he rebounded, only walked one guy. Did he only have 3 strikeouts? Yes, but 5 innings, only gave up 4 hits, no runs at all, no runs, no earned runs, no unearned runs. A much better outing for Josh Winckowski, and it's a big time for him and for Cutter Crawford to prove that, hey, we can pitch at the big league level. And you go back to Cutter Crawford, his first start last year was rough. 2 innings, giving up 5 runs. Winckowski, 3 innings, 4 runs in his first start a couple weeks ago. So, and obviously Crawford had a 5 inning, no run game in Seattle, and he'll start again, I'm pretty sure, next series against St. Louis. So get that first one out of the way, and who knows, maybe we can see Connor Siebold. He had a rough first start in the big leagues. Maybe he'll, come back this year. Maybe if he gets to make a start, maybe he'll have a good outing. I think there is something to getting that first start out of the way, and Winckowski, got that first one out of the way. And in the second start, he pitched very well. And he knew what to expect now in the big leagues. Okay, I know what I got to do. I know what I got to do better. I know what I got to stick to. And he pitched a whole lot better tonight. And you could see the difference. You could see that difference tonight in just how he pitched and all that stuff. You could see it. And then obviously the rest of the pitching, it was Diekman giving up a homer. I mean, surprise, surprise, as Doug would say. But Diekman, it's, the long ball to walk, so get him. Tonight it was that 1 homer. But that was the only one the Red Sox gave up. The rest of the bullpen looked good. Salmore ran into some trouble himself, but he also got out of that trouble. And then Brazier and Danish both looked good. Especially Brazier, he looked really good. The Red Sox lineup side of things. Duran hit leadoff. He did draw a walk, but not much else from him. Struck out twice. But Rafi Devers, obviously big game with the homer. It was his only hit. It went 1 for 3 though, and drew 2 walks. So big game for Devers with that homer. It was that 2-run homer. JD Martinez had a hit and drew 2 walks. Bogarts had 3 hits tonight. He had 2 of them were doubles. Verdugo went 3 for 5, and he had 4 RBIs, and he had his first home run in basically 2 months. 2 months as of today when this video goes up tomorrow, when, the game was tonight. We're recording this right after the game, so 2 as of tomorrow, June 16th, which is the day this video is going up, in the morning this video is going up. But so big for Verdugo because he's been hitting well in June, over 330 in June, been hitting amazing in June. he was unlucky before. It's like his expecting batting average, expecting slugging was way higher than his actual batting average of slugging. So it seems like he's starting to get on that track of, okay, now hopefully he can get a little lucky and get that bad luck out of him. Trevor Story, Alex Cora said before the game he needs to draw some walks. He goes 2 for 4, and what did he do in his first at bat? Draw a walk. Franchi went 1 for 5, not a great game. He's been cold as of recently. His average is down to 216, and it's been a rough stretch for Franchi. It's been kind of a grind for him. And you look in his last 30 games, it's 221 average, which is not great. Obviously, that's his last 30 games. He's played 39 this year. But you go to his last 15 games. This is where the real thing shows. His last 15 games, he's hitting 143. He's got 7 hits and 49 at bats. And in that time, he's drawn 5 walks. So he gets a 236 on base, a 306 slugging. In the last 7 games he's played, 2 for 19, which is 105 average. 292 on base. He's drawn 4 walks, but a 105 slugging. He struck out 8 times in the last 7 games. And there's been no doubles. All those hits have been singles. 2 hits are both singles. So it hasn't been a good stretch for Franchi. Hopefully he can turn it around again. We'll see. But I like Franchi. I mean, I don't know a lot of people who just don't like Franchi. I mean, he seems liked in the clubhouse a lot. So hopefully he can turn around, get it back going again. Obviously no Dalbec tonight, but Dalbec had been playing well, so that's going to cut into Franchi's playing time as well if Dalbec continues to play well. So, but I do hope Franchi can turn around just for the team. Kevin Plawecki he drew a walk tonight, but he has been horrendous offensively this year. He's hitting 141 with a 446 on base. This it's gonna be said next. If there's no world where the Red Sox should bring Kevin Plawecki back next year, this is how he's playing this year. And also, dude doesn't help. He's not great behind the plate. I call him noodle arm for a reason. He can't throw anyone out. It's just rough. It's rough for him this year. It's just been an absolute rough. And with Vasquez playing so well, the only time he gets to he's honestly in his next stretch, he's only going to play to give Vasquez a day off because normally he would catch Eovaldi, but Eovaldi, guess what? He's not pitching. He's injured. So that's even cut into his playing time even more. He was catching once every 5 days. Now he might catch once every 10 days, maybe, especially considering the Red Sox have an off day coming up and they just had an off day. That's, and the last guy, obviously, for us, Jackie Bradley Jr., big game from him. He went 2 for 4 today. His average is at 229. Obviously, that doesn't tell the full story. The home road splits. He loves hitting at Fenway this year. He's over 300 at Fenway. His OPS for at home is like 130. Is 138. No, it's not 138. It was like it's over 100. I know that for sure. It's been very, very good for him so far for Jackie Bradley Jr. And I think that maybe you want to consider a home road platoon with him. Maybe you should consider it. Maybe, I don't know if you should, but at home, his OPS at home, his OPS plus at home is, it's 138. I was right. It's 138. On the road, it is 16. He's not hitting at all on the road. 151 on the road, 210 on base, 183 slugging, 393 OPS. He's not doing much on the road. But at home, he's hitting 308 with a 349 on base, a 513 slugging, an 862 OPS, a 138 OPS plus. He's got 11 doubles, a triple, and a homer with 13 RBIs. He's been very good at home. And I think, at home against lefties, he's only not many at bats, hitting 200. I think he's like 2 for 12 or something, maybe like that. I don't know. It's not a big sample size. But against righties at home, he's hitting well over 300. I think that's something you consider. Maybe you get like a Ref Snyder. Take Ref Snyder, who played good his last couple games here. Maybe you say, Ref Snyder, you're going to play on the road, and we're going to play Jackie at home. And maybe you'll get to play at home. Maybe Ref Snyder gets to play at home against lefties. But Jackie's going to be stuck to just playing at Fenway. And because he's too valuable, his defense, especially if he's going to hit well, to not play him. Jackie is. So if he does play well, you got to play him. Moving on to the A side of things, there's not much to talk about on the pitching side. Kaprielian, not good again against the Red Sox. He doesn't want to face the Red Sox again, I don't think. 3 2/3 innings, 7 hits, 6 runs, 5 of them earned, 6 walks. Yeah, not good. AJ Puck came in, pitched well again. He's been stellar this year out of the bullpen. Then Domingo Acevedo gives up 2 runs, and then in the bottom of the 8th, Lou Trevino gave up another 2 runs. Trevino's been shockingly bad this year. A 9.18 ERA for Lou Trevino. Yeah, there's not much to talk on the pitching side. On the hitting side, Tony Kemp got on base twice for the walk and a hit. Ramon Laureano had a hit. There's not much. There's not really much to talk about. Davidson had the homer for them, pinch hit. He pinch hit for Stephen Vogt. He had a homer. He had that home run. Sean Murphy had 2 hits, and then Jonah Bride had 2 hits. There's not much to talk about. Just 7 hits for the A's, only 1 run. They only drew 1 walk. The Red Sox drew 7 walks tonight. I mean, most of that was from Kaprielian. He walked them 6 times. Kaprielian gave up 6 walks. But, regardless of whether that's Kaprielian or not, you like to see those walks happen. So you like to see them happen. So regardless of whether the pitchers, it's just one from one pitcher or from all of them. So you take what you get, especially because the Red Sox haven't walked a lot this year. And then obviously, the Red Sox are just hitting a bunch of doubles. The home runs are starting to come. And it's been a thing you see with these teams that are winning a lot. So a lot of it's with the homers this year. And I mean, it's not really different from other years, but like you look at the Yankees and the Judge hitting homers and just all the guys in them hitting homers. I'm not going to go through the whole list. Yeah, Toronto, and they hit a lot of homers. Tampa hits, Tampa's Tampa. Tampa's Tampa. They do Tampa things. But you look at Cleveland, they've done. I mean, Jose Ramirez drives in like 90% of their runs, but they survive. Minnesota hits a lot of homers. Houston does, obviously. You go look at the National League. Look at the Braves, and they've won 14 in a row. They've been hitting homers after homers after homers. The Mets they're catching up to the Mets. The Cardinals have been hitting homers a lot. Milwaukee's always in the cold streak. The Dodgers and Padres, like all these teams that most of them hit, like they're hitting homers, especially when they get hot. When they get in these hot streaks, they hit homers. They just do. And you look at it. You look at the teams that lead in home runs. You have the Yankees, the Braves, Phillies, obviously, but like they have no pitching and defense. Then the Astros, Brewers, Angels, Rangers, Blue Jays, Diamondbacks, Dodgers, Twins. Those are your top 11 teams. The only teams that aren't going there are the Diamondbacks and the Phillies, and they're not like terrible. They're not like god awful. So you look at the bottom 10. It's the Tigers, the A's, the Royals, Cleveland. Yeah, they don't hit a lot of homers, but they have Jose Ramirez. They have the Nationals, the Padres. Oh, geez, the Padres don't actually hit a lot of homers. But the point is that most of the teams that aren't good aren't hitting home runs, and most of the teams that are good, you have your outliers, I guess, like Cleveland, who has in the Padres, but they have star third basemen who really carry the offense. Plus other guys, they hit a lot of extra base hits though. And their pitching for both teams has been good for the most part from what I've seen. The Rays are the Rays. The Red Sox haven't had the long ball going for them. The Mets, most of their home runs come from Pete Alonso. And they're sprinkled in from some other guys, but they've had a lot. They get hits in bunches instead of hitting the homers. These teams that are good, they do 2 things. They either get hits in bunches, which has been more the Red Sox way of doing it. You hit a lot of doubles, but not necessarily homers, or they just hit a bunch of homers. The Yankees already have 100 homers this year. Aaron Judge has 25 homers this year. It's that, you look at, you start looking at the league. And you start looking at, all that. You start looking at the league and you start looking at, the league leaders. And it's a lot of guys. It's Judge, 25 homers. Alonso, Buxton, Austin Riley, 18. All these guys at the top are on good teams. I'll go through the top 15 in homers. Judge, Yankees, Alonso, Mets, Buxton, Twins, Riley, Braves, Alvarez, Astros, Betts, Dodgers, Devers, Red Sox, Goldschmidt, Cardinals, Guerrero, Blue Jays, Jose Ramirez, Guardians, Schwarber, Phillies. So there's one, I guess, but then Trout, Angels, Christian Walker, D-backs, okay. Harper, Phillies, and then Rizzo Yankees. That's your top 15. There's only a couple guys who are on not great teams, and those two teams are the D-backs or the Phillies, and they're not horrific. At least offensively, they're not bad. The Phillies are 32-31. They're game over 500. The D-backs are 30-35, but it's not terrible. I mean, it's not terrible, especially for the D-backs, considering they were the second worst team last year. So it's a lot of these teams are driven by the long ball, whether it's they have one player hitting a lot of them or they hit a lot of them as a team in total, which even like the Mets, they haven't hit a lot of homers this year, but they have Pete Alonso hitting a ton of homers. And with the rest of the lineup just getting hits and like consistently just here's a hit, here's a hit, here's a hit, here's a hit. It adds up and it creates this offense that's hard to stop. The Yankees, you've seen it more where they're just hit a bunch of homers, more so than some other teams, but they still get a lot of hits. But a Red Sox, perfect example. They've had a couple games recently where most of their runs are coming off homers, but they've also had their games where it's just hits after hit after hit after hit, and they're just single, double, single, double, where they're just driving in guys with regular hits instead of homers. So both ways work, but the point is that most teams that are winning, that are doing good this year, either hit a lot of homers as a team, or at the very least have one guy who's near the top of the league and hitting homers. And I think you see that. So that's what the Red Sox. I think this year is the ultimate year of it. Even with the dead in baseball, it's home run prevention and driving the ball. And by driving the ball, it doesn't necessarily have to be homers, but homers, doubles, extra base hits. That's it. That's the story this year. Prevent other teams hitting the ball hard and far, and then you hit the ball hard and far. I think that's the big thing this year. And normally that's kind of it, but I feel like this year there's just more of that. Because you look at the Red Sox when they were struggling this year, teams were smoking the ball off them. When the Red Sox weren't pitching well, and when the Red Sox weren't hitting well, they weren't hitting the ball hard, or if they were, they weren't driving it. Now their pitching's limiting the hard contact, and teams are, even if they hit it hard, they're not driving it against the Red Sox. And then with the Red Sox, when they're hitting and they're hot, they're hitting the ball and they're driving it for doubles and homers. So I think that's the big difference, between the good teams and the bad teams this year. It's the ability to get those extra base hits and also to get those hits in succession and also get homers when you need them. I think that's the big thing this year for teams. And that's going to be interesting to see how it plays out the rest of the way, especially with the heating up. Does the MLB change the baseball at some point in the season without letting the players know? That's the big question. And it'll be answered at some point, but that's truly the big question, and it's going to have to be figured out. But I think that's going to wrap this one out. This is definitely a longer game recap, went into more stuff than just the game, but figured it should be brought up as the Red Sox are in that hot streak, and a lot of these teams are either on hot streaks or losing streaks right now, so I felt like that stuff should be brought up. But yeah, that's going to have. Check out everything in the description, all the links, Instagram, podcast, website, and Twitter, plus all the Crew's Twitters. Like, subscribe, share this video, all that good stuff. Comment. We're going to be active in the comment section, so we'll reply to you guys. Let's get some thoughts on stuff. Red Sox, Yankees, baseball, non-baseball, anything, all that stuff. We want to, get a conversation going. And then tomorrow afternoon, I will be doing a Twitter space on my Twitter. I don't know if we're going to be doing it on the Bleacher Brawls Twitter or my personal Twitter. Just keep an eye out for it. I'm going to do it during the Red Sox game tomorrow. I don't know how long I'll do it during the game. We'll see depending on the turnout, but tune in for that. Yeah, that's going to wrap this all up. My name is Derek. You're watching Red Sox Recap on Bleacher Brawls. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.